If you look at the back-end dashboard of like a major children's streaming app today, you are definitely not going to see words like heart or soul or voyage.
Oh, absolutely not. No way.
Right. You are going to see metrics, things like retention rates, engagement loops, click-throughs.
Yeah, this stuff keeps them scrolling.
Exactly. It is an environment that is just loud, it is incredibly fast, and it really often treats a child's attention as like a user acquisition funnel that's just waiting to be optimized.
Which is pretty bleak when you phrase it like that.
It really is. But what if a media company decided to just completely blow up that dashboard?
Okay, I like where this is going.
Yeah, like what if instead of being a target for an algorithmic dopamine loop, a child's heart was actually treated as this vast open ocean just waiting to be navigated?
I mean, that completely flips the script on how we develop content for early development.
It really does.
You are basically shifting the entire operational paradigm from this rapid-fire consumption model to deliberate, mindful exploration.
And that radical shift is exactly our focus for today's deep dive. We are exploring a fascinating piece of source material that you actually brought to the table today.
Yes, I am very excited about this one.
It's the 2026 digital media edition of the NAKHODA Kids Storybook catalog.
Which is just a massive, incredibly detailed document.
It is. And our mission today for you listening is to basically dissect how this highly ambitious publishing roadmap weaves together, well, nautical metaphors, intense character building, and Islamic metaphysics into this highly structured, shared storybook universe.
And importantly, one that is deliberately engineered for a global audience.
Right, a global audience. Okay, let's unpack this. Because the moment you open this catalog, I mean, the visual and the thematic aesthetic just hits you immediately.
Oh, the artwork is stunning. They lean entirely into this breathtaking nautical imagery right out of the gate.
Yeah, the opening spread has this illustration of, like, a wise-looking captain with this big white beard.
Standing on the deck of a classic wooden ship.
Exactly. And he's holding open this massive book, and there's actual glowing light just bursting out of the pages.
And that light swirls up into these little bubbles, right?
Yeah, these bubbles that showcase children engaged in these really vivid adventures. Like, one shows a child crossing this rickety jungle bridge, and another has them buying exotic fruit at this vibrant, bustling market.
The visual language is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. It really establishes a sense of awe right away.
Totally.
But anchoring that entire visual is their foundational text, which is printed right on page 1. It says, "In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful."
Which is a very deliberate choice to put right at the front.
Exactly. Before a single product is even pitched, they establish the spiritual and ethical grounding of everything that is to follow in this universe.
It's a really striking opening. It frames the child not as a viewer or, a passive consumer, but as a voyager.
A voyager, yes.
And the catalog lays out its core philosophy with a quote that I think we really need to examine closely. It says, "Every story is a sail, and every heart is a sea. We write to remind children that their light already knows the way home."
Wow. There is just a profoundly mystical approach to childhood development embedded in that one sentence.
Yeah, it's deep.
By stating that the child's light already knows the way home, they are outright rejecting the idea that a child is just this empty vessel you need to, pour morals into.
Right, like they aren't just blank slates waiting for a lecture.
Exactly. Instead, the philosophy assumes there is an inherent goodness already inside the child, and the media's job is simply to help them discover and navigate it.
And they actually give a name to this internal compass, which I thought was so cool. The catalog states its belief that every soul carries a little captain.
And the specific term they use for this is a nakhoda.
Right, which literally translates to captain. So this little nakhoda inside the child is basically learning to steer their ship with 3 specific virtues: truth, kindness, and courage.
But we have to look at how they choose to communicate those virtues, because this is where they make a highly strategic choice.
Oh, the disclaimer in the philosophy section.
Yeah, there is a prominent disclaimer stating the material is designed for a global audience. And the phrase that follows is vital. They state, they are presenting the metaphysics of Islam told through art, not doctrine.
And that is capitalized.
Very capitalized.
That distinction between metaphysics and doctrine feels massive, especially when you're trying to reach beyond, a single demographic.
What's fascinating here is exactly how those two concepts function differently in a child's mind.
Yeah.
Let's break down the mechanics of those words for a second.
Yeah, let's do that.
So Doctrine, particularly in a theological context, usually implies a rigid set of rules.
Like the do's and don'ts.
Exactly. It is the how-to manual of a religion. So you have specific rituals, historical dates, strict didactic instructions. And while doctrine obviously has its place, it doesn't always translate seamlessly to a diverse global audience who might not share that exact theological background.
Yeah.
It can frankly feel alienating.
Or it just feels like homework. I mean, if a story stops to deliver this heavy doctrinal lecture, the child feels like they're suddenly reading a textbook.
And the adventure just grinds to a halt.
Totally, they check out.
But metaphysics operates on an entirely different level. It deals with the underlying nature of reality, existence, the soul, and universal morality.
So it's much broader.
Exactly. By stating they are teaching the metaphysics of Islam, they are zooming out, they're focusing on the universal principles the faith is built upon.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
Well, we are talking about things like the inherent dignity of the human soul, the invisible weight of our intentions, the interconnectedness of our communities, and just cultivating a profound sense of wonder at the natural world.
And crucially, they are delivering those metaphysical concepts through art.
Yes, because art bypasses the critical filters that doctrine usually hits.
That makes a lot of sense.
Think about it. A beautifully illustrated story about a child struggling to be honest when they've made a mistake, or, finding the courage to show kindness to a stranger, that resonates instantly with any parent or child anywhere in the world.
Because it's a universal human experience.
Precisely. Art allows those universal moral principles to land softly but profoundly. It makes the underlying ethos accessible to absolutely everyone.
I want to visualize how that actually works in the stories, though. Because it's less about hiding the nutritional vegetables in a delicious pasta sauce, which is the cliche we always hear about educational media, right?
I hate that cliche.
Me too. But this feels more like building a sturdy hull for a ship, like the exciting plot crossing that rickety jungle bridge we talked about, that is the wind in the sails that keeps the child moving forward.
Right, the momentum.
Yeah, but the ethical framework is the hull. The child doesn't even realize they are sitting inside it, but it's what keeps them from sinking when the emotional stakes of the story get really intense.
That is a much more accurate metaphor for what they are trying to achieve here. The catalog actually describes their content as a gentle world of Adab-guided adventures.
Adab-guided. Tell me about that word, Adab.
The word Adab is central to this whole project. It roughly translates to good manners, ethics, or proper comportment. And that means both outwardly towards your community and inwardly towards yourself and your creator.
Oh, I love that inward and outward balance.
Right, so the adventures are the delivery mechanism, like your wind in the sails. But the adab is the hull keeping the narrative afloat.
But a ship with a sturdy hull still needs to know where it's going, right? Like a captain needs a map.
They definitely need a map.
And that brings us to the catalog's specific structural roadmap for these stories, which they call the 5 core routes.
Yes, the 5 routes.
But the overarching framework for this entire universe is something they call the BAHTERA.
Which they explicitly defined as a guided vessel.
Right. This isn't just a ship drifting aimlessly. It has a highly intentional destination.
And to reach that destination, the stories navigate through 5 specific routes, or what they call Jalen.
Okay.
And looking at how they spread these routes out, it really reveals the holistic nature of the curriculum they're building. They aren't just focusing on solitary piety,
Right.
And they aren't solely focused on external societal success either. They're weaving the internal and external together.
Let's actually map out these 5 distinct routes so you, listening, can see how this universe operates.
Go for it.
Okay, so the first route focuses on character and ethics, that foundational adab we just talked about.
Yep.
The second route focuses on leadership and responsibility. The third route is all about imagination and wonder.
Which is a fun one.
Yeah. The fourth route is dedicated to faith and deep reflection. And then finally, the 5th route centers on community and teamwork.
Think about how those mechanics actually play out in a narrative. If a child is reading a story about that vibrant market we saw in the illustrations, they aren't just learning about trading fruit.
Right, it's not an economics lesson.
Right. Exactly. They might encounter a situation that requires them to engage with the community route, understanding how different vendors rely on each other to survive.
Oh, I see.
Then, the story might pause to let the character experience a moment of awe at the diversity of the market, which engages the reflection route.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. And honestly, I have to challenge the feasibility of having all these routes coexist in the same media ecosystem.
Oh, Play devil's advocate for me.
Well, when you look at the route for imagination and wonder, that inherently implies limitlessness. It's whimsical, it's dreamy, it's about getting lost in the magic of a fictional world.
Sure.
But then you look at the route for leadership and responsibility. That is basically the exact opposite. It's grounded, it's serious, it's about making tough calls and being accountable in the real world.
You're saying they clash.
Yeah. Does putting those two extremes in the exact same compass risk pulling the child in opposite directions?
This is a very valid concern. And honestly, it highlights a tension that ruins a lot of modern children's media.
Because they can't balance it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Creators usually force a choice. They think, do we entertain them with pure, detached fantasy, or do we force-feed them hard, real-world lessons?
Right, it's always one or the other.
But what this catalog proposes is that these routes aren't mutually exclusive. They are symbiotic cogs in the same compass.
Okay, walk me through how whimsy and serious responsibility actually fuel each other, because I'm struggling to see it.
Well, in the NAKHODA universe, imagination and wonder aren't designed to be pure escapism. They aren't meant to distract the child from reality.
Okay.
Rather, wonder is the very tool they use to develop real-world leadership.
Wait, how does wonder create leadership?
Think about the mechanics of being a truly effective leader. To guide a community responsibly, you need the imagination to envision a better future that doesn't actually exist yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You need a deep well of wonder to remain empathetic and creative when you're solving complex problems.
That reframes things completely. I mean, you literally can't lead people to a better horizon if you don't have the imagination to picture it first.
Exactly.
It turns whimsy from a distraction into a highly pragmatic tool.
Furthermore, that cultivated sense of wonder feeds directly into the root of faith and reflection.
How so?
Because when a child is taught to look at the natural world with genuine awe, it organically prompts reflection on the creator of that world. The catalog promises that these stories light the way with gratitude and faith.
So they are utilizing the expansiveness of imagination to help the child engage with reality more profoundly.
Yes, rather than just retreating from it.
Okay, I see how that theoretical compass works beautifully, but a compass is just a piece of metal if you don't actually build the ship.
Right, you need a vessel.
Yeah, philosophy is just a dream until it's executed. And that shifts us from the thematic elements of these books to the structural business reality of how they actually plan to pull this off.
Which they call the BAHTERA master plan.
And this is where we see the sheer scale of what NAKHODA Publications is attempting.
Oh, it's massive. They aren't just publishing a nice little collection of bedtime stories. They are rolling out a meticulously phased product ecosystem.
So the catalog is labeled as the Digital Media Edition 2026, and it explicitly calls this initial launch Season 1.
That phrasing alone, Season 1, implies a massive ongoing roadmap.
Right, it sounds like television.
Exactly. And they are launching with diverse formats right out of the gate.
Yeah.
You've got interactive storybooks, ebooks, and audiobooks, with a specific note about an English version, by the way.
Which speaks to that global audience goal.
Yes. But the real hook here is that they're building a shared storybook universe.
And borrowing that Season 1 and shared universe terminology from modern streaming giants is such a brilliant signal to parents and educators.
It indicates long-term episodic engagement, and honestly, the pedagogical value of a shared universe is just immense.
It's like a Marvel Cinematic Universe, but engineered for moral character rather than box office explosion.
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Think about the cognitive mechanics of that for a child. If a child learns a lesson about patience from a specific character in one book, and then sees that same character pop up as a supporting player in a completely different story, maybe one focused on teamwork, the moral concept transfers across contexts.
Oh, that makes sense. Because they already know and trust the character.
Right. It builds cognitive flexibility. The child recognizes the world, trusts the characters, and therefore they trust the ethical framework being modeled.
And to build that universe, they have a very clear three-phase, long-term expansion plan mapped out on this beautiful nautical chart in the catalog.
Let's go through the phases.
Yeah, so Phase 1 is the Foundation series. That's the core books, the audiobooks, and basically the establishment of the lore.
The bedrock of the universe.
Exactly. Then Phase 2 is this massive leap into digital apps and animation.
Which is a huge undertaking.
Very huge. And then Phase 3 is wildly ambitious. It's an actual physical education center.
A brick-and-mortar space.
Yeah. And driving all three of these phases is their core motto: interactive storybooks that shape character, not just screens.
Shape character, not just screens.
Yeah. And they pair that with the classic idiom, the pen is mightier than the sword, and a new slogan they introduce: Steering ideas. Shaping futures.
They are really planting a flag in the ground with this. They are signaling that they are in this for the long haul, taking a child from reading their first book all the way to literally walking into a physical classroom.
But I have a major question about the execution of this roadmap, specifically the transition from phase 1 to phase 2.
Jump to digital apps.
Yeah. We talked earlier about their goal to create a gentle world of thoughtful adventures, right?
Right.
How on earth does a brand protect that gentleness, that slow, mindful reflection, when they move into the notoriously hyperactive world of digital apps and animation?
It's a very fair question.
I mean, that entire industry is built on rapid-fire dopamine hits, flashy colors, and just overstimulation. Doesn't digitizing this universe inherently threaten to destroy the very emotional pacing they're trying to build?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to analyze the psychology behind their phrasing. Shape character, not just screens.
Okay.
This is exactly why the phasing itself is the strategy. Phase 1, the Foundation series, is intentionally designed to serve as a psychological firewall.
Wait, really? So the books are training the child's brain before the screens are even introduced?
Precisely. In Phase 1, they're establishing the core values, the ethics, and most importantly, the pacing of this universe.
Oh, the pacing.
Yes, they are doing it in mediums like physical books and audiobooks
Yeah.
that naturally require slower, more thoughtful cognitive processing. A child has to actually sit still, listen, and visualize.
And by doing that, they are actively building a psychological attachment to a slower, more deliberate narrative structure.
Exactly. So when the child finally encounters the animated versions in Phase 2, they aren't looking for a quick dopamine hit. They're looking for the thoughtful characters they already love.
It trains their attention span.
Yes. By the time the brand expands into Phase 2 digital media, the child is already deeply anchored in the values of the vessel.
So the medium doesn't dictate the message.
Right. The technology, the apps, and the animation are then forced to adapt to the character-building mission, rather than the mission being diluted by the medium.
That is so smart.
The brand is essentially stating that digital media is not inherently toxic, It is just a tool.
A tool that needs a good captain.
Exactly. And if the little captain inside the child has a strong internal compass, they can navigate an interactive app without getting lost in all the algorithmic noise.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening to this deep dive right now? Why should you care about a 2026 storybook catalog?
It's a great question.
I mean, whether you are a parent trying to aggressively curate the media diet shaping your child's brain, or an educator desperate for holistic teaching models, or even just someone fascinated by intentional world building, NAKHODA Kids represents an absolute masterclass.
It really does.
They are looking at the landscape of digital media and flat out refusing to let it be a mindless babysitter. They are demanding that it act as a character-shaping tool.
It is a profound rejection of the lowest common denominator media environment.
Truly.
They're placing a massive bet that there's a global audience out there starving for content that actually respects the intelligence, the agency, and the metaphysical potential of the child.
It treats the child's mind with a level of respect you just rarely see today. But before we finish up today, I really want to look at the very end of their roadmap, because it opens up a fascinating possibility.
This raises an important question, actually. We've spent this entire time analyzing the media strategies of Phase 1 and Phase 2, right?
Yeah, the books and the apps.
But if we look closely at Phase 3, the Physical Education Center,
Hmm.
we are entering entirely uncharted waters. We are accustomed to seeing cinematic shared universes contained safely behind glass screens. But if this publisher successfully translates a universe built on the metaphysics of Islam, told through art into a tangible, real-world educational facility, what does that physical space actually look like?
That is a wild thought to try and visualize. I mean, how do you build a school out of nautical metaphor?
Could the future of childhood education look less like a traditional classroom with, rigid rows of desks and standardized testing, and more like an immersive, interactive vessel?
Oh, wow.
Imagine a physical space where students literally walk the 5 routes we discussed, a space where the architecture itself encourages them to navigate character, leadership, wonder, reflection, and community in real time.
That sounds incredible.
Right. Imagine an educational center designed from the ground up to operate not as a factory, but as a living, breathing storybook universe.
I want to leave you with that exact image today. Imagine stepping off the crowded, noisy shore of algorithm-driven content and boarding a vessel where every story is a sail. Imagine an ecosystem designed entirely to help a young heart navigate a vast ocean with truth, kindness, and courage. That is a voyage worth taking.